Hosted by Ed Steer and Dan Bolter, Life in Digital explores the ever-changing media landscape with today's industry leaders. Hello and welcome to a Life in Digital podcast special. I'm here today with Andrew Mole, who's founder and CEO of PubX. Andrew, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Ed. Excited to be here.
Yeah, great stuff. And you're in the UK. I know you've been travelling a bit recently. Have you been doing the global tour?
We're doing the Bangalore, New York yo-yo. So team over in India, data science and engineering, customers and commercial people in the US, and growing, as you know. So yeah, just back and forth. But currently in the grey UK. So nice to be back home.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure the exact date that this goes out, but it's for last day of January. So I'm personally, January is always great to have a fresh start to the year, and I'm glad to see the back of it as well.
Yeah, likewise, exactly.
Good stuff. And it would be great for our listeners who aren't familiar with kind of PubX, if you could jump in and tell us a bit about yourself and the organisation.
Yeah, for sure. So the background is in the buy side. So my co-founder Alex and I we had a DSP, it was a native DSP, worked with all the agencies. We also had a content marketplace. We exited that business in 2018 to a bigger group. And the bit I'd always enjoyed was working with publishers. So we were helping them do these big kind of content pieces, driving engagement. And then after the exit, you might say conveniently, realized the pressures publishers are under from the buy side. So a lot of technology invested in buy side development. That's the bit I enjoyed. So we spoke to publishers and said, tell us where it hurts. What kind of things would you want building? And out of that came this picture that there's a huge amount of data on the sell side, but there isn't really the kind of vendor ecosystem to access it. So when we really drilled into that, we're like, well, we've been building machine learning for 10 years. How can we help publishers develop this technology? Where did we really go into? And we kind of came about that there are huge data issues in real-time bidding. As you know, there's billions of auctions a day happening, and publishers are kind of tackling these by hand. So they've got these static rules. They don't really have tools to help them. They've got to use Excels. They've got to check a week later, see how their strategies worked out, blah, 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 blah. And on the buy side, obviously, everything's done by AI. So the trade desk, they have a team of people sitting there going, I wonder what I should bid now. It's happening in algorithms, completely taking control. Here's my strategy, off you go. So we wanted to bring that kind of technology to publishers. And where we kind of landed with that was we're going to do floor pricing. So we're going to help them price their inventory in real time and kind of level the playing field. So just bring the sort of technology that already exists on the buy side that we were building for advertisers and bring that to publishers to kind of let them level up and take the jobs off the hands of people that shouldn't really be doing it, because it's not a job for people, it's a job for machines. So it's dynamic floor pricing, it's full media, it's full ad stack, and help publishers make more money, or I guess reclaim the money that they're losing through static strategies.
Yeah, okay. So it's raise floor price. And when you're speaking to publishers, and sorry to ask two questions in one go, when that journey started to what challenges publishers faced, 2016, 2017 to what they're facing today, what's that journey been like, and has there been much of a shift in the underlying challenges they face?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. The general consensus is always, how do we make more revenue? There's been pressure from the buy side, pressure from the industry, macro conditions that mean that publishers are always trying to monetize more effectively. So that's kind of the general impetus. You have uncertainty around things like cookies. You've got improvements in buy side technology. You've got general changes. You've got marketing and ad spend behavior shifting. There's new formats. There's the growth of walled gardens. All of these things put pressure on the publishers that in kind of the where we play, which is the open web. And so rather than look at this kind of pure ecosystem, we were like, how can we help them do one of these things really well? So it's true that why they're under pressure is changing all the time, but publishers are constantly under pressure. We see them as kind of, this is the value in the ecosystem. Like these people produce the value, the space to advertise, the audiences, the quality environment. And yet the innovation happens here, and they're getting driven down. So yes, it's changed. But really, the one constant has changed. They're always under pressure from something. What that thing is might be different, but the pressure is always there.
Yes. And if you're thinking about kind of the role of AI, I know it's so prevalent in your tech. How are you seeing AI genuinely impact the ad tech ecosystem and the buying and selling of media?
Yeah, I mean, in massive ways, right? And we try and say we were AI before most recent hype cycle. We've been doing
Yes.
it over the last kind of 12 years, but it's definitely impacted the buy side. These are massive data things. It's decisioning, it's real-time bidding, billions of data points. The buy side wants to get the most efficient spend, so the same ad for the lowest price possible, and this is where margin is made. On the sell side, publishers, it's kind of been more applied to content creation, which our view is sort of like, but this is the thing that you guys are good at, right? This is like, these are humans. People want to read human articles. Obviously, ChatGPT, Gen AI is very sophisticated, but this is the human audience building bit that we think publishers should be doing. So it had this weird schism where it doesn't seem to have really been applied that much to help them sell advertising. This is more kind of like general technology. So that's the bit that we've gone into. It's definitely changed the ecosystem and continues to do so. And I think it would be kind of, we're on this S curve, so the change is rapid. To say now, I can say with certainty what's going to happen would be maybe a bit foolhardy. But definitely we think and we see it changing and replacing those kind of like difficult to do big data jobs, optimization type pieces on both the buy and the sell side, which are well beyond the scope of people. And if you look to the financial markets, there's way fewer traders now. High frequency trading is a big deal. Algorithms are buying, algorithms are selling. They're encoding those strategies. So you've still got people saying, this is what we want to do. But ultimately, it's the algorithms that are doing the buying and selling and the decisioning. And we see the same changes happening across our industry as well.
Yes, and we absolutely see and feel that too. Out of interest, I know it's so hard to know, but where do you think we are on the S curve? It's obviously been such an accelerating period. It's been so in the mainstream, generative AI, because of, I guess, ChatGPT really landed in the mainstream, 2 years ago, give or take. So where do you think we are on that S curve in terms of where are we up to really with the AI journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think early, really. So this is, I think ChatGPT and these kind of models, we see them as more foundational. So this is kind of the start. And I think that you've seen with DeepSeek this week, whether or not they actually did steal ChatGPT's tech and that's how they've done it cheaply, you can see that what the drive there is for how efficient these models can be. So how can we produce the same thing cost effectively, maybe more environmentally, whatever it is. But those models are the foundational layer. So you imagine this is this kind of part of the S curve. Here, we've got the application layer. So what are people building on top of them? How are they using those models to create new technologies, new applications, solve new problems? So like zooming out of our industry, do we replace GPs from a diagnostic perspective? Because the models have got all of the data.
Yeah, I read it. It's fascinating.
They know you, you personally, your family history, everyone you've ever met. So do they go in on that? And I think that is going to be really the innovation curve. There's obviously, Sam Altman and OpenAI, they want to achieve generalized artificial intelligence, right? And I think that's almost a game changer, because what do people do when machines are infinitely intelligent is a big question. And hopefully we're a little way off that. But there's still all of these applications that are built on top of these foundational models, which are going to be game changing in every industry, and including ours specifically, where really it's kind of, there's a lot of IP that can be unlocked and put into these models that can help, in our case, publishers kind of be better at what they do, write better articles that are more targeted for their audience, better performing from a revenue perspective, etc. Obviously help buyers to better place ads. Curation is obviously a big deal at the moment, and I think dust is kind of settling on that, but that's probably going up as well. And you can apply these technologies to just be better at things that are decision making and remove human biases, hopefully. So not, I think the audience for this ad campaign is here, but where is it performing? Get me more of that, get me in front of more of those people. And then hopefully that filters down to publishers, where they might have a niche audience which performs really well for certain advertising spend that no planner buyer would ever have considered, because they didn't know about it, or it wasn't on their radar, they weren't in the waiting room at Group M or whatever it is. So hopefully we're early on the S curve, and we see a lot more value creation as a result of that.
Yeah. When you're speaking to, people can get nervous around AI, kind of, there's uncertainty surrounding it. When you're speaking to publishers, how excited are they about the role that technology can play in helping them to, increase their profit? Is the bottom line?
Yeah, I think it depends who you're speaking to. So obviously from a kind of a sort of CFO type level, there's anything that promises better bottom line is good. I think the practical level, it's very hard for publishers to stick their head above the parapet enough, get that zoomed out view where they go, okay, I've got enough time to really consider what's going on here.
Everyone's firefighting.
Exactly, it's firefighting. It's a daily attritional war of like, what's the next problem to solve, what's going wrong, what's happening with this bidding, etc. I think that's intentional. So we think that the big players in the sort of publisher technology space, the kind of Googles of this world, don't necessarily want to operate in a way that allows publishers full transparency, all of the levers to pull, etc., or else give them levers to pull that aren't necessarily useful within the kind of GAMs of this world. So we don't think that publishers are given the opportunity to have that kind of bird's eye view on where this helps. Again, except for editorial, where obviously you see like the application is very obvious. So it's not so much that there is kind of fear, uncertainty, etc., but it's more, how do we get the time? How do we make the headspace to be able to consider these things rationally? And then you compound that with poor publishers getting hundreds of emails a day from vendors, including us, saying, we've got AI, we've got machine learning, we're going to help you do dot, 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 dot. And it just becomes overwhelming. So I think it's that kind of early excitement period that we're on that we hope to see kind of like plateau a little bit, settle a little bit. And then as people adopt technologies like ours, but obviously there's lots of others as well, we start to take some of those things that probably are overwhelming but aren't really human scope activities and give them the headspace to focus more strategically on how do I want to drive this forward. They know that the basic boxes are ticked by tech like ours. Now I can focus strategically on driving the business forward. And that's what we mean about leveling the playing field. It's getting them to the same point where they can take a breath and go, how do we see our business in the next 5, 10, 20 years in this new world, knowing that the basics have been taken care of by technologies that never get sick, don't take a day off, run 24/7, and make sure that they're getting maximum value from what they have right now.
Yeah, it gives them I really hear that. And looking at kind of in focus for 2025, what do you think will be the big themes for publishers this year? What's on their agenda?
I mean, I do think it is AI, and not to sort of drive this down that. We're seeing a lot more people talking about flooring as well, which I wouldn't say that, but we do see that. That's what we're exposed to, because again, it's getting those basics right. I think we've seen trends kind of outsourcing as well. So full stack outsourcing, more creative content outsourcing from kind of big name publishers that you would expect, 100-year-old brands. You imagine that's going to persist, but then everything gets kind of outsourced or offshored as well. So
where do you, what regions? I know you have your India hub. Where are you seeing the outsourcing and the offshoring going?
So I mean, even in the US, you see people like Time who are jettisoned their digital department, and they're focusing on the value of the brand, sweating the asset, but really these kind of using Time to do massive marketing activity, but the digital team is outsourced. And we see that trend a lot. And there's obviously companies like Freestar who are working with increasingly large tier one publishers. And I think maybe 5-10 years ago would have thought, this is long tail only. So that's absolutely. Definitely, and it stems from the same issue, which is it's very difficult to monetize as a publisher. And there's also this kind of like, there isn't this language crossover from the adults people who are working on this day to day and the expectations of like the CFOs and the top level kind of people, and they don't understand the actual pressure, the day-to-day job these people are under. So I think you hope that you see technologies throughout the year solving some of these problems, and again giving the kind of breathing room to take a strategic view.
You mentioned curation earlier. That's on the supply side. There seems to be a big shift, actually, in a positive way. We've had so many positive conversations around the supply side and publisher technology. What's your take on something like curation and the opportunity that creates for premium publishers and publishers of all shapes and sizes?
Yeah, I think it's probably net good. The issue, of course, is always human bias towards curation. So who is doing the curating? What is being curated? What's being left out? I think it's kind of a response to the MFA sites issues that people had, where they're buying on environments where you wouldn't want to be as an advertiser. And it's it's the weird incentives that we set in this industry, which is, I want a viewable ad measured. I want it to be above the fold. I want it to be, a user activated, in scroll, etc. And these sites are going, yeah, okay, I've done all of these things. And then you read the server log list and you go, why is it being on, myterriblesite.com? What are they doing? And it's like, well, they ticked all the boxes. This was the right site to be available. So it's kind of putting that human element slightly back to ensure that premium publishers, we hope, get a lot more spend. People who actually invest in content creation and creating these great environments for advertisers to be in, have really strong audiences, and don't just tick the, is it viewable, is it in view, what was the attention metric, etc. Because the MFA sites, actually, they didn't really do anything wrong, apart from they didn't have this unspoken box ticked, which is it a really nice branded environment that I know about? So I think with curation, you hopefully see spend being channeled towards the people who are also doing that, who put a lot of effort into having really good websites, really good online experiences. So I think from that perspective, it's a net good. And then obviously you can layer, I was reading this morning about, layering LLMs on top of curation, so that you can also suggest environments to buyers that wouldn't necessarily have thought about them before, that are going to be high performance, and then bringing in new areas to advertise into these kind of curated environments. So I think from that perspective, it's probably a net good.
Yeah, I hear you. And out of interest, you mentioned how it's overwhelmed for publishers, how many publisher technology organisations will be reaching out, which you really feel. You've managed to grow PubX, in through what has been a challenging few years for many, and obviously it's an awesome story. So what do you put that down to? I know it was What do you? And I've got two. Well, yeah. What do you put that down to? How have you managed to do it?
Yeah, so I think the key phrase for us is modular pub tech, right? And
Okay.
this is, one, we're not ad tech, so
Yeah.
we don't sell data to the buy side. We don't help the buy side in any way. We don't punish the buy side, but we're very publisher focused. So for us, our customers are publishers. They always will be.
All publishers, no demand sales.
Exactly. There's nothing else. If we don't help a publisher make more money, we don't get paid at all. So for us, that incentive is very clear. We're very aligned, and obviously this potentially limits the whole market, which a lot of people go after, but we think this is a massive segment that's really undervalued and underserved. So being publisher aligned means we can honestly sit down with people who work there, because these are people, right, and say, we're on your side, and if we screw up, you don't pay us. So we have to get it right for you guys. We know we're taking responsibility for setting the price on hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of ad inventory. We don't want to screw that up, but know that we're economically incentivized not to. We don't also have a sales house and go, oh, who really cares? Because we make loads of money. We need to get it right. And then the other side of that is the modular bit. So when we did all of the research calls, luckily from the previous company, we had this great network of massive global tier one publishers, and we were like, really, what should we build? Where can we help you guys? No one wants a new stack. They don't want a new reporting system. They don't want to go, oh yeah, I've got to log into this new thing, or all I have to do is replace my header bidding wrapper, and then I can use you guys. We insert seamlessly with what they're currently doing. So we integrate with the majority of header bidding wrappers. Some of them you can activate by touching a button within the wrapper. So people like Magnite, you just press use PubX, and we don't want to add more work. So, the core theme that came out of all of those research calls was, I've got loads and loads of work to do. So we didn't want to design a product that was like, give us a month of your time and then you'll get an hour a day back. It was like, how can we get this live in one day? How do you tick a box and then, in the afternoon you go, oh, PubX is selling floors. Oh, it's making more money. And that's the kind of the final piece of this is it's constantly transparent. So there's always running an A/B test. We always keep a small off bucket saying this is what would have happened without PubX. So you can easily justify to any internal stakeholder, you see these guys are making us more money, that's why they're running. And our fee is a proportion of the money we're making effectively. It's an ROI based model. So it's like, we only do one thing, publisher aligned. We integrate directly, we don't ask them to do a load of work, and we transparently show that we're having impact, a positive impact for the publisher. And that was kind of like our secret sauce kind of thing. It was like, just do something that helps them.
That's a great place to start, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
So I have noticed. So you might not be able to answer this. So how much of your revenue or partnerships is coming directly with publishers versus having platform integrations with someone like Magnite as a those sorts of partnerships?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's an evolving sort of playing field. So at the start, it was very publisher focused and working with individual publishers. Then you get introed, oh, it would be great if I was part of the wrapper, it would be easy to activate sort of thing. And then we have those conversations. And I think probably historically it's kind of 50-50, but I think going forwards, a lot of that growth is going to be more these kind of like channel type partners where it's the platform integration, it's one shot, we work with their team to help their publishers. And then that becomes kind of a lot more effective at scale. So, we can say we're helping 300 publishers in one go rather than one times 300 publishers.
Adds value to everybody in that process from a helping one another outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we've seen that's interesting. And my second question being actually, you did mention it previously, but it's the second time you've done a startup. How different is it the second time around? The good and the bad. Is there any bad?
Yeah, I think you know the answer to that. One of the most astonishing things is how the human body and brain can't remember pain. So it's kind of we sold the last business. Yeah, exactly. Kicked our heels up. Spent a year or so doing a bit of consulting, helping other places, and then that urge just comes back. And I could really make a difference here. All these people are telling us these issues, and you could consult with one of them, or you could try and help all of them. So I think it's this time it's a lot less painful because of all the lessons we learned, in the previous incarnation. And we've got some of our we're venture backed, which means we're very lucky to be able to take the time to build something good rather than in our previous company it was bootstrapped and we're always chasing revenue. And we in the end we had a really good product, but your decisions are revenue driven rather than feedback driven, customer driven, and more long term. Really. Exactly right. So I think this time it's less painful in that sense, and also we avoid the pitfalls. Some of our venture capitalists won't invest in not second time founders. So they go out, make your mistakes on someone else's dime, and then we'll back you. And that's kind of their big philosophy. And at the time I didn't get that, and now I'm like, oh yeah, of course you would do that. Yeah, let you learn trading wheels somewhere else, kind of thing. So it's a lot less painful this time around. And I think, and this is a personal thing, it's not a judgment call in any way, being publisher aligned, this is the bit we enjoy. So being able to help publishers actually drive, create value, hopefully thrive and persist. Grew up reading magazines, and you want these brands to still exist into the future. And on the buy side, it's the efficiencies you drive are, we bought the same ad for 7.5% cheaper. So mega brands make 7.5% more margin on its media spend. It was just, for me, it was less rewarding, and that's why I wanted to work on this side of it. So I think better second time round. Still, obviously learning, and who knows how these things play out. The odds are always stacked against you, but it's a lot better. Feels like we're doing something that's actually valuable. So it's more. Valuable.
I really hear that. I read something on LinkedIn the other day about second-time founders, and you do. I just had a kick-off yesterday, and I spoke about us not remembering pain, which is important, I think, because when you're in tough moments, you just get out of them quickly because you're not going to. We have rose-tinted spectacles, but we learn so much from every experience. So I really, I can see it makes logical sense that when you've been through something, you're better prepared for it the next time around. And it's always hard to stargaze, but in 12 months' time, what would you love to be reporting back on if you're talking about 12 months from now? What would be things that you'd feel really proud of?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's some product expansion that's underway, and which kind of increases the addressable market. We want to currently it's an algorithm that does a thing really well, and it's A/B tested, but we want to make it a lot more transparent. So developing kind of the dashboard to enable publishers to have maybe more control. I mean, there's some people that want to set and forget, but there's other people that want to be involved. We're really in a great place where we've got very engaged customers who are like, it'd be great if it could do this. And, we want to, now we've got the core product is locked. It's kind of like, how do we serve these customers better? And, how do we evolve the core product so they can be more engaged? Or the people who want it, there is a bit more kind of hands on the steering wheel. I think, looking back and having even more sort of global expansion. So as bigger presence in the US is key. And really just being sort of agnostic to use case. So, being in a position where there isn't a publisher in the world that can't in some way benefit from PubX tech, either through integrations or directly onto their site. And that's kind of the plan for the next 12 months.
Sounds exciting. And that which is where a bit of random one, but where do you find you get your best brand lift? Is it going to events or seeing people? What do you find has worked for you?
Yeah, events are great. I'm a big sort of believer in person. We started this in COVID, so there was for the first 18 months we hadn't met any of the team in person.
Wow.
We hadn't met customers in person, and it's kind of getting. You mentioned Mexico, I think, on one of these recently, and it's really, we've got thousands of people, everyone's excited, they're vibing, getting ideas,
So good.
and I think that's a real brand lift for us. So I think that's probably the main thing. And this is there's also these kind of almost like these hidden communities. There's obviously the ad tech WhatsApp groups and things like that. Some are publisher only, and we're obviously not in those because we're a vendor. But we you hear about kind of people recommending, and someone goes, oh, someone recommended you. I asked about floor pricing in the publisher group, and someone said we should speak to you. And Brilliant. It's kind of like that's just so validating, because obviously great to have inbound people, but also to hear that other people are publicly proclaiming that it's going well. It's kind of like, you still get this warm feeling every time that happens. So I think sort of between events and kind of referrals from happy customers, those are the two kind of main brand lifts that we get.
Yeah, referrals are the best one, and PubX, I understand it's that sense. If you want to increase your revenue, then PubX. So yeah, there's
exactly.
Yeah, so it's cool. Yeah, I've really enjoyed the in-person. Actually, I hadn't done it. We're very much seeing customers again. But last year we did possible in Miami and Cannes and New Mexico and Madfest, and it was brilliant. Like, it was fun, and also we know we had really meaningful conversations. And with loads of panel events and things that happen across the globe too, which are fun. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's the thing. It is fun as well, right? It doesn't have to be. It's a startup. There is obviously a lot of grind, but it's nice to be able to say, go take some time to enjoy this and meet customers socially, not just on kind of video calls or business reviews or whatever it is, but actually hang out with people that ultimately decided to get into this same industry that you did and do the same thing that you did. So we find we have a lot in common with customers as well, even on a personal level. So it's nice to kind of have that opportunity to relax alongside the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned you started in COVID, which is fascinating to me because we've always been such a kind of in-person business. How did you get off the ground and get the team together and get the mission set when it was remote and video and people you'd not had that in-person time with?
Yeah, I mean, we had to kind of create that playbook. So it was, I mean, it's easier doing it from scratch, I think, versus going from we're in an office 5 days a week to now we're not anymore. So being able to start remotely meant we could put processes in place. But I think we spent a long time getting it wrong as well. So just assuming that people didn't want that connection, or not having shared, video calls, or trying to get together as soon as we could. And we sort of learned as we went along. I think the flip side of that, and I'm a big advocate for remote working, and Spotify put something out the other day saying, our team are adults, and it's like, yeah, of course they are. And we managed to set that culture from the start, and then we attracted great talent. And we have a hub in Bangalore because the two best people, which were employee 1 and 2 that interviewed, happened to be in Bangalore. That wasn't intentional, but it meant that we could interview globally. And we hired people in New York and New Jersey. And again, they were the best people that applied for the role. So we weren't limited, and it was kind of this incredible experience of getting inbound and not being like, oh, where are they based? Gloucestershire. It's going to be a hell of a commute. And it's like, oh, where are they based? New York. Oh, great. Well, we've got customers over there, so perfect. So it meant we really could go after like the best talent. And the flip side is, I wrote about this recently, but everyone says, startups are families, companies are families, and to an extent, you can see where that motivation comes from. But ultimately, your family is your family, and what you do out of work is your family and your choice, etc. And being able to say to people, you close your laptop and then you're back in your own life, versus close your laptop, leave the office, get on the tube, get on the train, get a taxi home. It takes up so much of the day. We only want to take up as much of the day as we need, and then give people the time back. So I think starting in remote meant that we had that culture in our DNA, and we're able to persist it even now in this kind of like back to office world.
Yeah, it's really awesome, really great to hear. And we have another podcast on work-life culture, which is a whole different subject. But yeah, I really hear it's really fascinating. And well, thank you so much for sharing. It's been really enjoyable, and the best of luck for 2025. I hope to see you at one of the aforementioned events.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I'm sure we'll see you later.
Cheers, Andrew.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Life in Digital. If you want to know more about our guest or any of the topics that we covered today, you can find out more in our show notes and on our website.